The Toyota Avensis has been with us since 1997, and this is the latest facelift of the third generation model launched in 2015. It offers a good size, practical family car with generally good equipment levels. The Avensis also carries with it a reputation for reliability, if at the expense of excitement. There's a selection of 3 engines to choose from, a 1.8 litre Valvematic petrol and 2 BMW sourced D4D diesel units. The 147 brake horsepower petrol does without turbocharging, despite the trend towards turbo petrol in rivals, and it uses Toyota's variable valve technology to achieve the performance and economy mix. It does need to be worked hard to make progress though, and the 0 to 60 mph time just ducking under 10 seconds is merely acceptable. It'll do a combined fuel economy of 47.1 miles per gallon and 124 grams per kilometre of CO2 are similarly middling figures. If the petrol needs working hard, then the 1.6 litre diesel needs absolutely flogging. On paper, the figures seem pretty impressive. 67.3 miles per gallon and 108 grams per kilometre of CO2, but the power band is very narrow and there's very little low down grunt. It needs constant gear changes to keep it in the sweet spot, and there's no automatic option. The 143 horsepower 2 litre D4D is a little less frugal, but is still a relatively cheap company car and is much nicer to drive. The Avensis is a comfort-orientated car and it deals with motorway miles just as well as anything else in its class. The retuned power steering makes the Toyota feel more stable at speed too. There's still a question mark over the low-speed ride, and it'll complain over uneven, patchy surfaces that you'll find in and around UK towns. The handling isn't bad either. It's not the best in its class by any stretch, but there's very little body roll and the revised steering is better weighted and more accurate than the previous model. That said, if you really enjoy your driving, you'd probably be better off with a Ford Mondeo. Generally, it's a hushed cruiser though. It's quiet on the motorway without too much road or wind noise, except on very rough surfaces. The newer diesel engines are much more refined than the previous model, although still a bit gruff compared to the best cars in the class. Just as the drive is comfortable, so too is the interior. With these new seats, it's not difficult to get comfortable behind the wheel of the Avensis, and for many, the interior is everything it should be for a Toyota. The cabin was a little dour previously, so some of the most significant work has gone into improving that. There's an all-new dashboard with a smart driver's information display and media system, lifting the ambience of the cabin markedly. There's been a hike in the quality of materials too. It's just a little bit annoying that in some key places the quality isn't quite as good as it should be. The door pulls, for instance, something you touch every time you get into the car. It's suitably hard wearing though, so it will survive a long life pressed into family duties and inevitably as a minicab. You won't be wanting for space in any of the passenger seats. There's a totally flat floor here, so no transmission tunnel which impedes legroom. There's plenty of cubby holes dotted around the cabin too, and a large glove box, so you're more likely to run out of things to store than space to store it in. Space in the boot is on the good side for the class. The saloon has 509 litres available, where there's 543 litres with all the seats in place in the estate, and 1,609 litres with them folded down. It's one of the less expensive cars to buy in its class, and running costs are merely so-so. And there isn't a sub 100 gram per kilometre CO2 version like many of its rivals, so it's not going to be a big hit with fleet managers. The 1.8 litre petrol is a little thirsty, but should at least approach its fuel consumption figures in real-world use. Equipment levels are pretty good, especially if you go for the business edition with 2-zone climate control, sat-nav with 8-inch touchscreen display, digital radio and electric adjusting driver's seat. All Avensis models come with a suite of safety aids under the Toyota Safety Sense banner, including autonomous emergency braking. When tested by Euro NCAP, the Avensis achieved the full 5-star rating with 93% for adult passenger protection and 85% in child passenger protection, among the highest ratings for any car. The Avensis certainly isn't the best car in its class, but it's a decent option, especially when you consider how well it's priced compared to its rivals. It's a little let down by the engine range though. While the newer diesels are better units, the petrol is thirsty and there's no super frugal option in the mix. For more information, search for the Toyota Avensis on whatcar.com, and to stay up to date with all our video road tests, click subscribe.